Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my very first video on YouTube. Before I start, I would like to give a huge shout out to all of those who subscribed before I even uploaded a video. That is support on a next level. But also a big shout out to my friends at FM Scout and Robert, because I simply wouldn't be creating any content if it wasn't for them. 7 months ago, those are the guys that got me into content creating, and they have supported me every single step of the way. But here I am, and in this video I will be quickly going through every little tactical instruction there is on this game. I'll quickly go through it, what they mean, and hopefully, just hopefully, it will help you guys create in your own tactic. Before I get into that, it would be hugely appreciated if you could subscribe, like and comment. I'm just starting out, guys. It would be major, it would be massive for me. But let's get started. In different videos we can do formations, we can do player instructions, and we can also do playing styles. In this video it is all about the tactical instructions, and straight away we are going to start with the mentality. Here we have 7 different mentalities. They range from very defensive all the way to very attacking. Now very defensive and very attacking of course are 2 very extreme instructions, whereas the mentalities in between you can find some balance. Of course, positive attacking and very attacking are the positive mentalities. Very attacking is to the extreme. The positive mentality aims to be positive, of course, but with some caution to it, and the same goes with the cautious mentalities. Very defensive is cautious to the very extreme levels, whereas cautious, there is a better balance between cautious and the ability to be more positive. Now in possession and with the attacking width, you can opt to go with very narrow, fairly narrow, narrow, fairly wide, wide, and very wide. This all depends on the mentality. Usually what you would find, the more positive the mentality, naturally the more width your team would get. Also with the mentality, you would notice when you are changing it from positive attacking to very attacking, your passing directness and tempo will also change. At the moment this is positive, it is on a standard passing directness with a slightly higher tempo. The moment I change that to attacking, you will notice that the tempo has now changed to higher and the passing directness has gone to slightly more direct. So it's always important to remember that when you are changing mentality, there is a possibility that you are also changing the attacking width, the passing directness, and the tempo, which is all tied into risk in my opinion. For the attacking width, fairly narrow, of course, naturally your play will be going through the central areas, but it doesn't mean that your focus is through the central areas. It just means naturally your plays will be positioned closer to each other, so naturally the play will be happening in a very narrow fashion. And when you are playing with wider, you will notice that a lot more risks are going to be taken because players are now more spread out from each other, forcing players to take just that little more risk on the ball to try and complete that pass. Now for the approach play, the pass into space, you are simply asking your player to pass to his teammate in front of him for him to run onto rather than to his feet. If you want to play attacking football and penetrate, get in behind the opponent's defense, then pass into space could be for you. But if you are looking to play very strict tiki-taka or very strict controlled possession, then maybe pass into space is something that you might not want to go for, because you could lose possession fairly a lot. Here we have the overlap and we also have the underlap. The overlap simply means that your wider players in the advanced areas will look to hold onto the ball, allowing for your deeper wide areas to make the more forward run past them. And then for the underlap, you're asking for your advanced wider players to hold onto the ball, and then your central midfielders or just your central players will then look to make some forward runs into the channels. When you do use overlaps, what you are asking for your wider players in the advanced areas is to chill on their mentality. Maybe the mentality could decrease, and then for the wider players in the deeper areas, their mentalities could increase. And for the focus play, when you are using it, be careful and make sure you check your player's mentality, because when you are using the focus plays down the flanks, there is a possibility you are changing your player's mentality. That applies for all focus plays, and when you do select a focus play, what you are simply asking them to do is to attack those areas with a more intensive purpose. Play out defense simply asks for your deeper areas, especially your defenders, not to look for the more direct ball consistently when they have the ball. So if you are using ball playing defenders, you will notice that they have take more risk encoded in them, and without this instruction you would notice that a lot of the times your ball playing defenders could look to play that more risky pass all the time. But when you select play out defense, you are now asking your defenders and your deeper midfielders to retain the possession a little bit more better, and by doing that your midfielders naturally will look to drop deep when your defenders have the ball. Passing directness is simple. The shorter you go, the more your team will look to retain the possession, and the more direct you go, the quicker your team will look to get the ball further up the pitch. And the tempo is similar, but with the higher tempo you're asking your team to knock the ball about in a more urgent fashion, and with a slow tempo you are asking your players to take a little bit more time on the ball with their decisions. Time wasting again is fairly simple. If time wasting is on sometimes, then of course sometimes your players will look to time waste, and if it's on often, your players will, oh, there's a little bug there. We are using the beta version, but it's not changing. Don't know if it's, yep, it's not changing. But if you're looking to use the more often time wasting, then of course your team will be looking to time waste on a more consistent basis. For the final third, you have very different crosses to choose from. You can float crosses, which is going to get the ball into the air. That is very good if you are using a target man. There is whip crosses. For me, this is very good if you have very dangerous crosses on the ball. This can make it difficult for the opponents to defend against. And then you have low crosses if your players have very good off the ball movement. If the opponent is significantly better than you in the air, I then wouldn't suggest you put your crosses in the air. Work the ball into the box will reduce the risk around the box, asking the players to hold the ball and be a little bit more patient, waiting for a clear-cut opportunity. Hit early crosses will instruct your wider players to look to get the ball into the box as soon as they get the ball in the wider areas. And shoot on sight just simply means you're asking your players to shoot when they see a sight of goal. This doesn't mean every time they get the ball around the box they are going to shoot. No, of course, if they see that opportunity at goal, they are more likely to go for it. Play for set pieces is a good tool if you are looking to benefit from set pieces. If you want to get your big men forward for set pieces to be more dangerous, then play for set pieces can be used. You're instructing the players to try and win corners, to try and win free kicks and even throw-ins when they are down the byline. For the dribbling, if you are using dribble less, you could be reducing risk in your team, but also your players will be looking to adopt a pass first mentality. And if you're using run at defense, this is a more direct instruction. Your players will start to look to dribble straight towards goal rather than pass it. When it comes to creative freedom, you have two instructions. You can ask your players to be more expressive, or you can ask them to be more disciplined. If you're asking them to be more expressive, then you're asking them to do things outside the tactical setup. So maybe if you've got players with good flair and good decisions, this could be a good tool for you. And if you're asking your team to be more disciplined, then you are simply asking them to follow the team instructions on a more stricter basis. Now for the transition, when the possession has been lost, you have counter press and you have regroup. A counter press instruction will aim to win the ball back as soon as the possession has been lost, and the regroup, you're asking your players to drop deeper into the defensive positions, trying to make it harder for your team to break down. When possession has been won, you have the counter option. When you have one possession, your players will look to get forward in the more advanced areas to try and penetrate the space. Or you can ask your players to hold their shape, which is mainly used in possession stats because you don't want your players to be moving forward. You want your players to be available in order to collect the ball from your teammates. Now for the goalkeeper in possession, you can distribute it quickly to try and instigate counter-attacks, or you can slow the pace down to try and gain control of a match, or to try and gain some possession. For the distribution type, you have roll it out, throw it long, take short kicks and take long kicks, which basically does what it says on the tin. If you roll it out, you're looking to roll it out to a teammate that is close by. If you want to throw it long, you have a few options to throw it to the flanks, to the playmaker or to your defenders, and the same goes for short kicks. You have the option to distribute it to the flanks, to your fullbacks or your defenders. But when you are taking long kicks, of course you can't take a long kick to your defenders, so now you're looking for a more direct approach and get the ball further forward quick as possible. Last and not least, for the out of possession, For the defensive shape, you have the offside trap. When you are using this, you're simply asking your players to step up to try and catch the opponent offside. Without it, from my understanding, you could actually be dropping off, allowing some pressure. But then again, if you do allow some pressure on your defense, that could be a great tool for a quick counter attack. So if you are using a counter attack and dropping deep, maybe you don't want to use the offside trap. But if you are using higher lines, then offside trap could be a tool for you to use. The line of engagement is where your forwards in your team begin to press the opposition to try and win the ball back. And of course, this works hand in hand with the defense line. This instructs the defenders as to how high they should position themselves when the opposition has the ball in their own half. So the line of engagement is when your team chooses to press, and the defense line is where they are positioned when the opponent has the ball, especially in their own half. Of course, when you are using this, be careful not to create much gaps in your team, because that can make it easier for your opponents to break down your team. For the defensive width, they've actually made it very, very easy for you to understand. When you are using narrow, simply you are forcing your opponents outside, which could actually result in a lot of crosses into your box. So having good defenders in the air could be a great tip. And when you are defending wide, you are forcing your opposition to try and attack you from the inside. When you are using tighter marking, you are asking every player to get closer to the player nearest to them to engage into a tackle rather than standing off them. The pressing intensity, of course, is fairly easy to understand. When it is in the middle, usually your team will go with what the mentality is set by. So if you are uncautious, the pressing mentality is set to standard. If you drop to very defensive, then you will notice that your pressing intensity has dropped now to slightly less urgent. And the same when you go to very attacking now, you will notice that the pressing intensity is on slightly more urgent. So if you are leaving it in the middle, that is basically like a default setting. But the moment you start changing it to the right, you are asking your players to close down the opponent in a more urgent fashion. And if you start moving it towards the left, you are asking your players to drop off a little bit and not engage with the opponents too often. For the prevent short goalkeeper distribution, you are asking your forward players mainly to try and close down passing lanes for the opponent goalkeeper, making it nearly impossible for the opponent to play out from the defense. And with the tackling, it's kind of easy again. Stay on feet. Simply you're asking your players to stay on the feet, not to engage into any rough tackles. But if you are using get stuck in, which is very, very risky, this can result in cards, but it can also be very, very rewarding if it does work, because it simply means that there is a chance of you winning the ball back a lot more aggressive, and that can put you on the front foot. But there it is, a very, very quick tactic guide going through every instruction and what they mean in a very, very brief manner. Thank you guys for watching. It has been RDF. Thank you guys for supporting and watching my very first video. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe or comment. I will see you soon. Stay safe. Peace, y'all. Love and peace.